frustrate you personally, though, when guys like GSP and Lesnar have health problems, pretty bad luck that probably your two biggest draws?
Well, the problem is, that, and I don't mean this to sound insensitive, but when your product is human beings, you're going to have problems. Injuries, personal problems. It's a laundry list of problems you have when you're dealing with athletes.
And then what about the flyweight class? What you said you're going to have an announcement.
Yeah, this weekend. I should have something by this weekend. Okay. But it's happening. I told you guys it was happening, and it's happening.
Do you anticipate moving some bantamweights down? Joseph Benavidez.
I'm not moving anybody. Those guys can make that decision themselves on what weight division they want to fight in. But I have a feeling that 125-pound division is going to be as nasty as 55 and 70. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of talent there.
John Dodson.
Dodson's awesome, man. Awesome.
When you do something like that, you guys obviously have to go out and basically build a roster before you can announce, hey, the flyweights are here and here's who we have.
Yep.
So, how long did it take you to do something like that? You guys
I've
have been
been
talking about
working
it for 18 months. Right?
Yeah, I've been working on it for months. Yep.
Do you have to look outside the U.S. a lot for those guys?
Trust me, it just happens. When you announce a weight division, especially, I think you're going to see a lot of, at 125 pounds, you're going to see a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Asian fighters now coming to compete at that weight. Traditionally, if you look at boxing, they dominated those weight classes. It was either Asian or Hispanics came in and just dominated.
How exciting is it to be able to bring in a bunch of people that most of the major guys have never heard of?
Yeah.
You guys get to market hold, you set
Well, I think that if anything proved how awesome the small guys are, it was this season of The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, how about the finale? The finale was incredible. The Diego fight's probably the best one round I've ever seen in a fight, and then Dodson is just phenomenal. That guy's an amazing, explosive athlete.
Speaking of the finale, you said afterwards, pretty disappointed in Miller's performance. Weren't sure what you were going to do with him.
I still don't know. Yeah. I mean, it was bad.
I mean, was it a disappointment factor for you, or was it just that it got pretty bad? Did you expect more?
I mean, to be honest, believe me, my Twitter's been blowing up with all the Mayhem fans, blasting me. But facts are facts. It was the worst stand-up I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if I've ever seen stand-up that bad. The guy's been in the business for over 10 years. Looked like it was his first fight ever. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Do you think it was ring rust?
I don't even know what to call it. I mean, I've seen guys with some ring rust. They don't go like this. You know what I mean? They don't go like that. I mean, some of the punches that were thrown by Mayhem Miller in this fight, you could go to a girls' Taibo class and see better form, better stand-up. I mean, it was embarrassing.
Why are you choosing to return or take UFC to Japan now, especially with the state of MMA as a business?
Because we believe that Asia is a huge market, and not just Japan, but Korea, China, the Philippines. The list goes on, and we're just kicking it off.
Do you think the crumbling of dream is just a perfect time to come in now? Or?
Yeah, I think do I think that we're going to go back and do this event there, and it's going to be like Pride in its prime with 100,000 and K1 in its prime? No, we're going to go back there, and there's going to be people who are UFC fans. The mixed martial arts that existed in Japan is completely different than what the UFC is. You can't even compare the two. It was a lot like pro wrestling. Yes, you had a lot of great fighters out there, but they would do a lot of pro wrestling type stuff. We're going to go in there, we're going to put on a UFC event, the event that we put on all over the world, and there are fans of the UFC there, and we're going to continue to grow that market.
Any chance you're going to invite Saki Kabara?
Saki Kabara, he's more than welcome to come if he would like to come.
Your first 5 fights in 2012, besides Brazil and Vegas, your hometown show, in Chicago, Nashville, Omaha, which you haven't been back to the 3 of those in a long time.
Yep.
Again, is that just a scheduling fluke, or do you look at those and say, we haven't been here in a while, we got
Yeah, where are we going to go? We did this last year, we hit that the year before, and Omaha, Nebraska was a huge market for us, and so was Nashville. So, yeah, we're going to hit them again.
Dana, are you worried that adding another division, another lighter division, will actually thin out your 145 and 135? Was that a thought that maybe it won't be stacked enough for title shots and whatnot?
Not at all. Nope. Good
Dana,
question.
as other companies crumble, and the issue of monopoly, which you guys aren't. You made that point. But before there was a UFC do not compete clause with their fighters. Is that why to have this many fighters, you have to put on a show like every 2 weeks?
A UFC
So,
do not compete?
like if a UFC fighter can't go compete elsewhere.
Oh,
There's
right.
been
No,
fighters
you're
who-
under exclusive contract
Yeah.
with us, which is like saying Brady can play anywhere he wants to.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, it's-
you guys have to continue to put on a show like a week by how many fighters you've acquired.
Right.
Is that the plan going forward, or will you just say, okay, well, some of you can compete, or are you staying do not
No,
compete?
if you're with the UFC, you sign an exclusive contract with us, just like any other sports organization. You know, and yeah, I mean that's the way it'll always be.
And then you just have to put on more and more shows so more and
Yeah.
more families eat.
All
pretty
the
much.
guys, and the thing that you asked about us being, monopoly and all that bullshit, we're just the best at what we do. We're the
Yeah.
best at it. You know, there's a lot of, there's no barrier to entry to get into this. We're not making fucking computer chips over here. You know what I mean? We're putting on fights. You come up with 3 letters and you go out and raise some money, and you could be in the business tomorrow.
Done.
So, you know.
For the Fox shows, do they have to be quarterly? Are you going to do them quarterly? Or could there be another Fox show in March?
Yeah, no, I'm,
Is the goal to do
yeah,
it quarterly?
yes,
every 2 months?
yes.
How many live fights will be on this Fox one?
How many live fights?
Yeah, you've announced 3.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
there gonna
yeah,
be
yeah,
another-
right. We're going to run this just like we normally do any of our shows. This is the triple header right here, but if time permits, we'll add other fights in, just like we do with all of our other, everybody's got all crazy over that first Fox fight. The first Fox fight was designed to be one fight, the heavyweight championship, to introduce more people to the UFC and to the sport, to what it is and what it's all about. It was never supposed to be a night packed full of crazy fights. Like, when you watch us now on television, we burst onto the TV, man. Me and Rogan are screaming, and then the thing comes on, and this is the fight that's going to happen, and we tell you that, and the fights just go, 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 go. You can't bust onto broadcast television like that. You have to come on and explain who we are. Believe it or not, we live in this bubble, and not everybody. If you walk down the streets of every major city in this country, you're going to find a lot of people that don't know what the hell the UFC is. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. I don't know. So there had to be this introduction and a little bit of educating on broadcast television. And that's what we did with the first Fox fight.
Why not do a 5-fight card then, like a usual card?
This is 2 hours, and different than what we normally do is, and I said that when we get on to Fox, it's going to be more storytelling, kind of getting in depth and explaining who these guys are and what this thing really means.
Is it going to have the same pre-show and post-show thing like the
Yep.
first
Yep.
thing on Fuel?
Yep,
Is Evans Davis going to be 5 rounds or 3 rounds?
it's 5 rounds.
Okay. Is that the only one that's going to be 5 rounds?
Yeah, yep.
You had
Yeah,
mentioned
they were all 5 rounds and all went 5 rounds.
I was just thinking, since that they're number 1 contender matches. So,
No, it's
you know,
true.
it's,
Yeah, it's the triple header. They're all the main event, but you got to have one main event.
You mentioned in San Jose you were thinking about doing 4 fights on the show. I mean, if it's going to be just 3 now, was that just a simple matter of taking a look at
It'll
the
end up
math?
being
with-
4. You know how it works. I mean, I mean, could all 3 of these fights go the distance? Sure, they could. If they do, then there'll be 3 fights. But if not, we'll be sliding fights in and making up time because you got the prelims and the whole undercard.
Do you know if they've started selling ad space for it, commercials and things like that? And
I'm sure they have. Yeah. They killed it the first time. Imagine it was pretty easy to sell it the second time.
And then one more quick Fox thing. Do you know if was the date targeted around the NFL being on its off week for the playoffs the week before
I'm
the
sure
Super
it
Bowl?
was, yeah. I'm sure it was. They give us the dates.
Some people surprised how cheap the tickets priced in the United States UFC fight in January. Is there any explanation to this?
People ask what?
The tickets are priced too cheap for this event.
The price is too cheap? I'm glad they feel that way.
You can raise the price on Sunday after I get mine on Saturday.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. Usually people are bitching that it's too expensive. I'm glad. We undersold ourselves here. I like it.
In regards to Twitter, there's a lot of fighters on Twitter now. Do you ever think of putting in code of ethics for Twitter? Because you know the problem with Forrest a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You ever think of putting a code of ethics for Twitter in?
Here's the thing. We do every year. We bring guys in and we have the UFC summit and we go through everything with them. I don't know if you've ever seen me on Twitter. Maybe somebody should teach me a code of ethics. But I think that we're heading into a different world here. It's a different time. It's a different day and age where you connect with the fans. And people say dumb shit sometimes. You know, fans come on and say dumb stuff. If you say some dumb shit, expect to get some dumb shit back. It is what it is. I'm not one of these guys who runs the company and is going to have everybody hide from Twitter and, you know, and you're dealing with fighters. And if you think you're going to come on and start saying stupid things to people and blasting them, and the Forrest Griffin thing was taken out of context. The Forrest Griffin thing, what he said made absolute sense. Twitter isn't the place to say it. You only have so many characters to explain yourself in what he was saying, you know? It wasn't, you know, demeaning rape and saying, you know, anything positive or whatever about rape. He was saying, as he turned on the TV that morning, there was a story about Penn State. He literally changed to another news. There was another story. And then the third channel he went to, there was another story about rape. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over television. He's like, rape is the new missionary. It's all over the place. So, believe me, when I saw his tweet and I called him, I said, I can't wait for the fucking explanation on this one. I mean, I don't know what he's going to say that's going to make me think that this was the right thing to tweet. And it wasn't. You don't tweet stuff like that where you can't explain yourself immediately. But it is what it is.
Oh, sorry. Did you ask him to make the donation or visit with that rape crisis
I'll tell you something
center?
about Forrest Griffin, and I'm a guy who's been in this situation before. When you say something like that publicly, and all these groups start coming after you, right? They all start coming after you, and you know, they all want to get the PR off, you know, getting you to apologize for what you said. Forrest Griffin, there's this charity in Las Vegas called Foursquare. And basically, in Las Vegas, I guess in every major city, but Las Vegas, there's something like 580,000 kids that don't eat every day. Like when they go to school, the only meal they eat that day is school food. So when Friday comes, they don't eat again till Monday at lunch at school. I mean, that's crazy. You don't even think that things like this exist until you learn about it. So we're sitting down with this charity, Foursquare, and they're giving us, you know, all the information and everything. And they said, you guys know a guy named Forrest Griffin? Yeah, we know Forrest Griffin. He said, well, I guess he used to come in there and he would put on a hat and everything and go in the back and start cooking and stuffing boxes and making food, and he would work there all day. Then when he left, he would write a check. And he would do it every day. And they told us that about Forrest. We didn't even know that. And Forrest does all kinds of good things, you know? So Forrest was so upset that this thing happened. He was all over it on his own and tried to make it better. Forrest Griffin is a good guy. And 90% of the guys who fight for us are good guys. I'm not going to say every guy that fights for us is a great guy, because believe me, we got some real idiots that fight for us too. It is what it is. But
Can you name some names on there?
easily. And, you know, that's the type of person Forrest Griffin is. So, believe me, when I see guys, and I know the difference, when something bad goes down, and I got a guy that I think, you know, probably needs to be reprimanded for what he did, then we do it. And when there's a case that I see where a guy is getting hung out to dry because he was misunderstood in what he said, I will defend him to the end.
Speaking of guys saying quote unquote dumb things, you got Chael, who's been accused of saying dumb things in the past, but he's obviously a natural at the promotion and the marketing of this thing. Have you ever worked with anybody even remotely close to him in the past?
Not even anywhere near. Not even. I mean, seriously, and this, believe me, I'm sure everybody's going to go crazy over this one, but I'm just telling you, I've never seen anybody who can talk like this guy can since Muhammad Ali. Seriously. Since Muhammad Ali. The stuff that just comes right off the top of his head and is hilarious. It's just, you know, and you don't know what's real and what's not real.
What about, compare that to Michael Bisping, because Chael gets a lot of love.
Well, Bisping's just a dick.
To do it.
Bisping doesn't try to do it. Bisping is who he is. And, you know, there's certain guys that just have this thing about them that you're just not going to like. Michael Bisping is one of them, and so is Josh Koscheck. You know, these guys could go out and try to make everything better and say nice things, and you're still going to not like them.
On Friday at the weigh-ins, obviously you would walk off stage, and I'm sure you heard what he said.
Yep.
to probably a couple hundred people there. But
Yep.
do you have any?
And
any
my
comments you want
response to
afterwards?
that is, and believe me, all the media was calling me going, he told the fans to fuck off. He flipped them off and everything else. And I said, guess what? The day of the weigh-ins, these guys have been away from their families for 8 weeks. They're cutting weight for the last 2 days. They're miserable, they're nasty, and if you're yelling stupid stuff to the guy, he's a fighter. What do you think he's going to say to you? Thank you very much and have a great day? No, he left and said, fuck you, and flipped them off. Apparently, do I encourage that? Do I want guys to say that? Apparently, Michael Bisping doesn't want any fans. What do you want me to, you know what I mean? He doesn't want fans. This isn't the NFL, man. This isn't the NBA. It's the fight business. There's some things that are unacceptable, and there's some things that are like, I hear you.
With with shows going on Fox and more promotion, more advertising, Nick Diaz always says, I need to make more money, I need to make more money. Does this help them? Because their advertising's viewed by more people, you guys are in a bigger venue.
Dude, I guarantee you Nick Diaz makes more money
than he says.
I know what Nick Diaz makes.
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but I don't want to insult everybody here. I'm telling you right now.
You're probably
I stopped you really
He
quick. I
makes
was like,
more
then he
money than
says.
everybody here combined.
Yeah.
Trust me, okay? And the other thing is, it's human nature.
Yeah.
We all want to make more money. You're not making enough. You're not making enough. You're not making enough. Everybody wants to make more money, and everybody feels they deserve to make more money. Nick Diaz makes a lot of fucking money. A lot of money.
With the sport growing.
If he doesn't know what he's making, he needs a better accountant. And as far as buying a house, he can buy whatever house he wants to buy in Stockton, California. If he wants to move out of Stockton, he can do that too.
One of the questions I have.
When I called him on that day at the press conference, what did he say? No, he said, I didn't go to school to buy houses.
Oh.
That's what he said.
Are you going to refer him a realtor?
I didn't even know what to say to that. You know what I mean? That was one of the most awkward press conferences in history. I mean, it was just, I know what he makes. I hope he knows what he makes. And none of us went to school to buy a house. Maybe some of you are realtors here, I don't know. But, Nick Diaz, all the things you're asking me about Nick Diaz are part of what makes Nick Diaz.
When it comes to you going to Japan or Alistair Overeem moved here to train, do you run into work visa issues? Do you guys handle that directly? Is that a them problem?
We handle it.
You do?
Yep, we make sure all that stuff's taken care of and dialed in.
Do you guys ever run into a problem with it? Like you're going to Japan, is there someone who...
Yeah, I mean, there's problems here and there. Ever since 9/11 and all that stuff, it's tougher getting certain guys into other places, but it's part of what we do. It's what we do for a living, so we figure it out.
Okay.
Have you definitively decided what's next for Anderson Silva? Is it going to be the Son and Munoz winner, definitely?
Yeah, definitely. It's the winner of this fight. It would have been Sonnen had he been healthy, and Sonnen said, I'm not waiting for him, I want to fight. So the fight that made absolute sense was him and Munoz, and
Anderson, it's a shoulder. Sonnen says he's faking because he's ducking.
He's not. He was hurt going into that fight in Brazil.
You alluded to that fight.
Let me tell you what. First of all, and he knows this, and they all know this. They're all gonna. Yeah, there's no such thing as faking an injury in the UFC. If you call and if I'm trying to make the Sonnen Silva fight, you think I don't want to make that fight? If I'm trying to make that fight and you tell me you're injured, you come see our doctors, and we get them checked out, and we verify that they are injured. There's no faking injuries in the UFC.
You've alluded to that fight possibly taking place in June in Brazil. If Chael wins, when do you start worrying about security for him down there? And from what I understand, that stuff is very real.
Yeah, we will have presidential type security down there.
Did you get a Chael mobile, like a Pope mobile, bulletproof?
We will have him.
Love that.
Yeah. The biggest fear would be, should Chael win that night?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we'd have to fucking dig a tunnel underneath the octagon.
Even though that stuff is very real, do you think at all about what that might do globally to the mainstream? Because that would get talked about on non-MMA sites that, hey, there's this fighter that's going to Brazil and people want to kill him.
Yeah, but you think about this. Do you guys remember back in the days of boxing when Greg Haugen fought Julio Cesar Chavez? You guys remember that? This guy, Greg Haugen, fought Julio Cesar Chavez, who was their national hero. Chavez was. Greg Haugen said the most horrible things you could ever say about Mexicans. It was crazy. Then he was talking about Julio Cesar Chavez's record. He said 80 of his fights were Tijuana cab drivers and stuff like that. I mean, he was just hammered. He fought that fight in Mexico City. They walked him in like with this thing. People were throwing beers at him and everything on the way in. It was crazy. But the fight went off, and it was one of the biggest fights in boxing history. So, I mean, this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. It happens. You've got these guys who talk a lot of smack about a country and have an entire country hate one of them and an entire country love the other one. Cool? You done with me? All right.